On everybody. Just want to jump on real quick and share a little bit of the insight that I've been processing. It's actually been so very much. It's been overwhelming, but in a good way. And so for me, my intellectual, scholastic mind wants to do all of the research and all of the fact checking and all of that things before I release it. But there's also a level of spontaneity that I'm trying to implement, because I know for me, I can overcomplicate simple things, or even if things are already complicated, I can overcomplicate them. Also, just insecurity as far as in being able to properly relay these truths or articulate exactly what it is that you're trying to say, or excuse me, what it is that you're trying to convey, even if you feel like you understand it, and just all of those things. And so what I'm trying to do is get better as far as definitely making sure I have a handle on what I'm trying to convey. It'll be even better if I'm coming from a place of experience, definitely, because it's easier to convey that way. And plus, we have more than enough theory being propagated and misinterpretation and all these things being propagated, so we don't need more of that. And so what I'm trying to do, and what I'm trying to say actually, is that pretty much all week I've just been on a Neville tangent. And one thing about it is that I'm a proponent of letting things interpret themselves. Like, so for instance, YouTube, TikTok, social media, just every platform you can name, definitely YouTube, I'm sure, I know, is full of law of attraction, law of assumption, and manifestation teachers and material you can look for. You could just type in Neville and it will probably finish the statement for you and take you to like millions and thousands of videos about Neville Goddard. And that's a good thing. It's a great thing, because that is how I came across him, and that is how I began to get a lot of the understanding that I have. But with the decentralization of information and anybody being able to release it, with that comes drawbacks. And so you have a lot of people propagating theory. You have a lot of people propagating misinformation, whether intentional or not. You have a lot of people coming from a lack of experience, lack of understanding, the way that they understand it, or whether it's right, or they could be totally off. It's just pretty much you have a whole lot of information that can lead you through rabbit holes. And for what that can do is, for as much good as it does, it also can undo that good, and it can also be a bad thing, because you become perpetual hearers and searchers and seeking out of information, to the fact to where you don't even devote time to actually do the thing that you're searching about. But we get to this, it's like a dopamine rush or a high, to where we want to search and search and search and search and search and search and search to see if something is true, or to see if it makes sense, or if we can understand it before we apply it, when in all actuality, true understanding only comes from application and from getting it wrong, or failing, or falling on your face and correcting course, or making adjustments here, going back at it. And so understanding is more experiential, more than intellectual. And that's not to say that there is not an intellectual or mental component, but not so much so to the point to where it prevents you from doing the thing that you're actually learning about. And that's in everything. The Bible talks about being hearers and not doers of the word, or being wanting to continue to increase in the knowledge of God, but never understanding the actual power. And I think that's a principle that's universal in anything. So yes, definitely research and search and get understanding, and not just information, but just realize that the true understanding is only going to come in actual application, because a principle can work. And just because it worked for somebody else don't mean that it will work that way for you, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. But you just have to find what works for you. And nobody can tell you that. It's not a one-size-fits-all per se. Even if the law is immutable and global or universal, it's still, you have to see it and try it on and apply it for yourself to see what works, and make the necessary adjustments there. So sorry for that long tangent. Said all of that to say that I have been just listening to Neville, just Neville Goddard, just listening to him at work. I pop it in and I got the audio books and I just listen to it. And because I'm like, I hear so much about what he said and the interpretation and breakdown, but I have not actually read or heard what he said from out of his own mouth, but from other people. So just let Neville interpret Neville. And so with that, it's just like a total just mind F fill in the blanks. It's just like a total mind scramble. The simplicity of it. And truly, actually, I believe that Neville is all inclusive. It's exhaustive. I believe that if you really just dive into Neville's work and tune out all of the other noise, I believe you will be led to maybe another teacher or two that just helps to bring clarity to those gray areas that you don't quite understand. But ultimately, if you just dive into Neville's work solely the way that he spoke it or wrote it, I believe that you will see just how complicated we've made it unnecessarily. And so with that, it just opened up a rabbit hole for me, and it actually just took me to the concept of time, believe it or not, and just really how wrong the linear concept of time that we hold is, and also the importance of being present and aware in this present moment. And I know that a lot of times we believe that we are being aware, and we are present, but we don't actually realize how much time we spend, how much of our mental attention, time, energy, and currency we spend in either the past or the illusory future, and how much time that we're not really anchored in this moment. And we believe that when tomorrow comes, well, whatever we project to be the future, that we don't realize that it actually is the present moment. Like when tomorrow comes, it'll be today, it'll be this present moment. And anything that we think about in the past is actually memories or images that we bring up, that are in our brain, and that we replay and that we loop. So it's like a movie, or like a projector screen, or like a streaming device where you're watching a movie and you can go forward or you can go backward, all in one time. Like you're in the moment, you're looking at the screen, and you can go anywhere on that screen, forward or backwards in that movie, all in real time. And it's the same thing with reality. We're in this present moment right now, and we can see past and we can see future, kind of like how God has explained how he sits outside of time and how he can see everything at one time. And so there's no chronological or linear time with him. It's always now in the moment. And so it's described as a timeless realm. And so the more we get out of our mind and our thoughts and the thought of, or the concept of chronological or linear time, we'll see just truly how bad we've been duped, but really how much power and authority that we really have. And so a lot of the sci-fi or the superhero or the super dramatic movies and shows that's depicted as far as time travel and all these things is actually true. It's not far-fetched. They may dramatize it because, of course, it's Hollywood, but that's truly how our minds think. And so you can tackle it from a physiological, just brain and thought perspective. You can do it from a quantum physics, quantum mechanics perspective, which is science, or you can just do it from a mystical, a spiritual perspective, or you can do a combination of all three. So whatever your flavor is, there's a flavor that can accommodate everybody, or whatever you like, a mixture thereof. So I said all that to say, in reading Neville, I realized, like, because he talks about a lot about feeling of the wish fulfilled, and pretty much how you make a future wish a present thing, you feel it in the now. And so what, and just in reading and going over his, and just really diving in and really digesting what he's saying, he was saying that pretty much like the past is the same as the present image. Like the only thing that makes present tense images more real, more sensory vivid, is because we're actually experiencing it. But he was saying pretty much the same images that we experience in the present, the past and the future are the same thing. We just project them. And so what I'm understanding is that where we are right now in this moment in our lives is a reflection of the things that we have or have not done in the past. And we think that the past don't weigh us down or does not have an effect on us, but it is. And that's why we continue to perpetuate the same scenarios and things from the past if we don't revise them, which is he's a big proponent of, which is the number one technique of his, is past revision. If we don't revise them, then we are doomed to continue to loop them. So that's why a lot of times I believe manifestation or materialization doesn't work, is because we are trying to create something in the future to deliver us from this present that is not in congruence or synonymous with our past programs, because our past programming is locked in and continues to loop until we change it. That's why, like I said, we continue to experience the same things over and over and over and over and over again. And so then we try to escape from that by disassociating from the present and going to a future that we think or feel will be magically or mysteriously better, and it won't until we tie up the loose ends and revise and change the images from the past. And so that's why a lot of times a person could be stuck in a loop, or they could be stuck in a moment from something that happened in them traumatic in the past that is very valid and justified, and it may not have been our fault. But that still does not relieve us of the responsibility. It's a difference. It may not have been our fault, but we do have a responsibility what we do with it, because it's our lives is the only one that's being affected. And so a lot of times when people have traumatic things that have happened to them in the past and they've held on to it, you literally are stuck in that moment. Even though you are in the present tense, you are stuck in that moment, which means that you have been walking dead pretty much and unconscious for all of this length of time between the time when it happened until now. So you've technically been living, but we've just been existing because we've been stuck back in that moment. So we have not been able to fully give ourselves to the present. We have not been able to fully be aware. And so until we deal with those loose ends and those things in the past that continue to loop and it continue to keep us bound, we truly realistically have no different expectation for the future. That's where insanity comes in. That's where frustration comes in when people talk about manifestation or law of attraction, and we want to mysteriously or magically create things to deliver us out of this present, and we project it into the future, and then we get frustrated when it doesn't happen, or when we get results but they are not what we set out to be, or we get the total opposite of what it is that we set out, is because what we are seeking to create is not synonymous with the program of the past. And so I said all of that to say, without making this video too long, the way I'm coming to understand prayer, manifestation, materialization, law of assumption, whatever you want to call it. I started out in the Christian church, maybe, what was that? So I was like, 15 years ago, so that is my paradigm, or that was the first paradigm that I filtered truth through. And so I said all of that to say is that there was always a lot of concept of, believing it is so, or faith in it till you're making it, or it is done, or, so pretty much everything that the law of attraction community or manifestation community talks about, just maybe different verbiage. So as far as acting as if, living in the end, acting as if, just that concept of it being done. It's not now 15 years later where I'm coming full circle, and I'm not saying that I've arrived at total understanding. I'm sure I have much more depth to go, but now it's truly understanding what it means. And what I say all that to say is that, like I said, talking about chronological time, we're in this present moment, but we can see the past and we can see the future. But the thing is, our future that we create is only going to be a mirror reflection of the past. So in order to project and see what it is that we want to in the future, we have to first deal with the past. And the way to do that is what Neville calls revision. And what it does is, what it involves is going to the image or the imaginal scene that happened in the past and replaying it over, but not how it went, but then you are revising it and tweaking it to what it is that how you would have liked to have it turn out, or what you would have liked to experience. And then you continuously loop it through repetition until it feels natural, or till it becomes first nature, or your subconscious mind picks up on it as if it really happened. And so then what happens is that just how the past scene has affected your present life up to this point. Well, Neville says that if we are to go back and we are to revise the content and change the scenario to how we would have liked it to play out, that will have an effect not only in our present life, but also will go before us and give us a different future, because we went back and changed the scene from the past. And we've seen that concept in movies for years, to where a person is able to go back, and even if it's a black and white or a hazy image, they're able to go back in the past into things that happened, and they can make a decision for bad and worse. But it's kind of like the butterfly effect. Like one minor tweak that you make to it can have drastic and enormously bigger consequences in the future. But they only really show you it on the negative side, and it's true, but it works both ways. You can tweak something for the good, and you can see that immense change happen not only in your present life but in the future. And so I said all that to say, as for thinking about prayer, Jesus said in Mark 11:24, in the parable of the fig tree, when they were marveled that he cursed the fig tree the day before, and they walked past it the day before, and the very same thing that he cursed actually came into fruition. That actually is a little intricacy for me, because the way I've always heard it preached, they made it seem like it was a instantaneous, real-time transaction. And that's not to say that it's not possible, because it is very much so. But there are little intricacies, because if that's the case, that is a cause for condemnation for us when we don't see those instantaneous results, when in fact those results were instantaneous for him. I believe in and reading it recently, I believe that happened on a Monday, where they walked past the fig tree, it didn't bear any fruit, he cursed it at the root. And then Mark 11:20-25 happens the next day, which is a Tuesday. So that means it may have been up to 24 hours later when he did that. So it was not instantaneous in the moment. That's not to take away from the story. That's also not to say that it's not possible, because it is very much so. But pretty much what happened is he cursed the fig tree at the root, which is very symbolic, because in doing my study, it took me back to Matthew 11, where he was talking about repentance, and he was talking about laying the axe to the root, which is very key. And if you notice at the fig tree, he cursed it at the root. So I say all that to say is that he gave us a key into how to get answered prayer or manifestation in this room, and it's 3 tenses. Never really understood it until I understand it how I do now, and I'm still going deeper in it, of course. But what he said was that whatever things you desire, he said, when you stand praying, believe. That's present tense. That's in this moment. Believe. After that, he said, some translations word it differently. Some translations say believe that you receive, or that you are receiving. But the true tense is saying believe that you have received. That's present tense. So what he's saying, that's twofold right there. In this present moment, when you stand praying, desire, believe. Then he says that you have received. That's past tense. He's saying then you will receive, or you'll be sure to get it. That's future tense. And I said all of that to say is that summed up all of the 3 tenses, what I was saying about taking us out of chronological time, because he's saying that you're in this present moment. But in order to get what it is that you want to receive in this next moment, which we call the future or tomorrow, you not only have to create it in this moment, but you have to go back to a place to where it is already done, which is in the past. And so for me, in reading and just diving into Neville's content about revision, it really was like a total paradigm shift, mind-blown emoji for me, because it's like, well, we can create our reality or future, what we call the future, from this point, and we can project outward. But the results are going to continue to be hit or miss if it does not fit our paradigm of the past. Now, if it's something that's consistent with our paradigm of the past up to this point, you'll be able to create it like that. That's why we see such quick results, almost miraculous, in reverse to the things that are negative, or the things that we don't want, or the things that we deem bad, because we already have a frame of reference, or set point, or paradigm, or default setting for that thing. So it doesn't take anything for it to manifest, because it's already consistent with our past paradigm. So if we try to manifest something here in this moment to what we call the future, but it's inconsistent with our paradigm, the results will always be 50-50, 40-60, 30-70, because and hit or miss, or in the things that we do get will be short-lived, or to be a lot of resistance around it to get it, and even more to keep it because it's not consistent. So for me, in the way I understand it, the best way to do it is to go back to the past and create retroactively, per se. It's kind of like a mind shift. It's kind of like paradigm shifting or reality shifting. It's parallel timelines, parallel realities. It's just like all of the stuff that they put out in sci-fi and dramatize it is really how our minds think, and it's really how our spirits travel. The thing is, once we learn it, we have to leverage it. We have to program it for our benefit and not against us, because we're already fluent in it. But we're fluent in not getting the things that we want, and also making it very difficult to get the things that we do want. So we just have to just go back to the drawing board. Like Jesus said, lay the axe to the root. Neville talked about it in one of his books. I think it's The Law and the Promise. I don't have it on hand, so I don't want to quote it and not do it any justice. So I'll probably have to do another video on it where I read it verbatim what he says, but he pretty much is saying what I'm saying, that time is one continuous structure, and that we think that the past things don't affect us, but they do. And essentially we have to go back to the past and to the root of the thing that we're trying to create, and we have to revise it. And in revising it, we change our past and we make it much more easier and natural and proficient going forth in the future. But first we have to deal with the past, and I know that that can be difficult for us on various levels, because we've all experienced various levels of trauma. Some may be more traumatic than others, more deeply rooted, very painful. I'm not here to try to diagnose psychiatrically or mentally or emotionally, or that's beyond my realm of experience. And so it looks different and it feels different for us all, but the principle is the same, in that until we get to the root of the things that's been holding us back, or the things that we thought we left in the past, or things that are unresolved, what that looks like and how that looks like varies differently for us all, but it must be done on various levels. And like I said, that's beyond my realm of authority. And so that's not my place to give advice as far as to how or what, because I've experienced a lot of things that have been traumatic, but there are a lot of things that I have not experienced, and I do not desire to experience them. And so I won't be able to adequately do those any justice. But so I'll say all that to say is that for the way I understand it, actually revision is like really all that you need. And that's not to say that you won't be, it's simple, but it's not easy initially, and you can always go deeper in it. But even Neville said it in the Pruning Shears of Revision in his book. He said that it's a mind exercise, and the more that we get proficient and fluent in it, what he says is that it expands and amplifies and magnifies all of our senses till we come into what he called vision. And we know vision is not just sight or insight, but he said that imagination is sensory sensation. So it's not just vision, but it's sight. Well, it's not just vision or sight, but it's hearing, touch, taste, and smell. So pretty much what it does is opens us up to all of our inner senses, to where if we know that we can go fluidly back in time and change things, then we can do that in the present moment, and we can also do it in the future as well. And so what it does is gives us mind strength and flexibility, but it all starts with revision. And so for me, like I said, it is making more sense for me to learn how to revise and become proficient and fluent in revision, which is going back and dealing with the images and experiences of the past, revising them with new content, experiencing the way that you would have liked to experience them, or the way that you would have liked for them to turn out, and continuing to loop it through repetition until it feels natural and takes on a life of its own. Then we will begin to see the fruit of those changes in the present as well as in the future. But it all hinges on revision and becoming proficient in it to a level of mastery, to where we develop the strength and the flexibility to where we can direct our attention where we need it to be, whether it's in the past, what we call the past, or what we call the future, but it's all in the present in real time. So again, I hope this wasn't too long-winded, and I hope you made some sense out of my ramblings. I hope you guys got some value from it, something that provoked you to go to a deeper depth or a higher height and to search things out, but more so experiencing for yourselves. Like I said, that is my intention. I'm never feel like I'm adequately able to articulate what it is that I'm thinking or what I'm trying to say, but I never want to allow that to be an excuse to why I hold back or don't do it at all. And so, again, hope you guys got something from this. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Till next time, peace.